Happiness is often sold as a destination, something to chase through achievements, possessions, or endless positivity. But ancient Stoic wisdom flips this script, revealing that true contentment lies not in external rewards, but in how we engage with life's inherent challenges. Below are 10 counterintuitive truths about happiness rooted in Stoic philosophy that defy modern myths and invite you to rethink what joy truly means. Truth 1. Laugh more. In the midst of life's storms, we often hear that we must be stoic, tough, or serious, especially when times get hard. This idea, deeply ingrained in many of us, paints Stoic philosophers as emotionless figures who shun joy, humor, and lightheartedness. Yet this couldn't be farther from the truth. Stoics, in fact, believed in the power of joy, humor, and laughter, even in the face of adversity. Laughter, they realized, isn't a sign of weakness or denial, it's a sign of profound inner strength and resilience. The Stoic philosopher Seneca, one of the most well-known figures in ancient Stoicism, offered deep insights into this paradox. In one of his letters, Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with himself, yet he laughs with others." This statement encapsulates an important aspect of the Stoic worldview. While inner peace and self-sufficiency are central to Stoic thought, these qualities do not require an absence of joy or humor. On the contrary, true wisdom and strength allow us to experience life more fully, including its absurdities, challenges, and occasional absurdities. The Stoic laugh is not an escape from reality. It is a deep acceptance of reality, even when it's painful, difficult, or confusing. Imagine for a moment that you are going through a period of intense hardship, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a painful breakup, a financial struggle, or a health crisis. In these moments, the world might feel dark, heavy, and overwhelming. Yet, the Stoics would ask, could you find a reason to laugh? Could you find humor in the absurdity of life itself, with all its unpredictability and contradiction? This isn't to trivialize your pain or make light of suffering. Instead, Stoicism teaches that laughter can serve as a powerful tool for reclaiming your agency in difficult situations. When you laugh, you take back control from the world's cruelty and its suffering. You remind yourself that while you cannot always control external circumstances, you can control your response to them. Humor offers a release from the grip of fear, sadness, and frustration. It allows you to step back and see the world from a different perspective, one that might be less constricting and more expansive. What if laughter were more than just a coping mechanism? What if instead it were a form of resistance? In a world that often tells us to take everything seriously, laughter becomes an act of defiance. It's a rejection of the idea that life's trials are meant to crush us. By laughing through hardship, you refuse to let life's burdens define you. Take a moment to reflect on the people who have inspired you most. If you think about the individuals who have overcome immense obstacles, whether they are historical figures or people you know personally, you'll likely find that many of them carried a sense of humor with them through their struggles. This isn't by accident. It's because humor offers a sense of liberation. It allows people to stand tall in the face of adversity, to laugh in the face of fear, and to find strength in what might seem like an unbearable situation. In Stoic thought, this form of resilience isn't about denying pain or pretending that everything is okay. It's about acknowledging the hardships of life while not letting them have the final say. It's about refusing to be a victim to circumstance and instead reclaiming your agency by choosing your response. Laughter becomes a way of saying, yes, life is hard, yes, I'm hurting, but I can still find humor in the absurdity of it all. True happiness, according to the Stoics, isn't the absence of pain. It's the courage to live fully, even in the face of pain. It's the ability to confront the difficulties of life and say, this is hard, but I will not let it defeat me. I will not let it rob me of my joy. I can laugh, I can find humor, and I can continue moving forward. Take, for example, the legendary philosopher Epictetus, who lived through slavery and great hardship. Despite his circumstances, he found ways to express joy and live with a sense of lightness. He never denied his suffering, but he understood that his response to suffering was what truly mattered. By embracing the present moment and finding humor in it, Epictetus was able to transcend his immediate circumstances and find peace. Laughter in the midst of hardship doesn't mean ignoring the weight of the world. It means understanding that our ability to laugh, our ability to choose how we engage with the world, is one of the most powerful forms of freedom we can possess. And this freedom, according to the Stoics, is one of the truest forms of happiness. In a world that often feels as if it's filled with endless obstacles and pain, laughter is a revolutionary act. It's a form of resistance to life's unfairness and unpredictability. It's a declaration that no matter how much we suffer, we retain our power. The ability to laugh, deeply, authentically, and even through pain, embodies the true spirit of stoic resilience. So the next time life throws a curveball your way, try to laugh, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Laugh not as a way of running from pain, but as a way of confronting it head-on. Laugh because, in that laughter, you are choosing to move beyond suffering. You are reclaiming your agency, your strength, and your joy. After all, as the Stoics knew so well, true happiness is not found in the absence of pain, but in the courage to laugh through it. In laughter, you find the freedom to live, to grow, and to continue on, no matter the weight of the world around you. And in that, there is a profound, unshakable resilience. Truth 2. Get outside. Before modern psychology, before mental health apps, before therapy couches and mindfulness trends, there was nature. Silent, ever-changing, indifferent to human affairs, yet profoundly healing. The Stoics understood this intimately. They believed that nature was not just a background to human life. It was a fundamental teacher, a living reminder of our place in the grand order of existence. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, often turned to nature for clarity. In his meditations, he wrote, "Look deep into nature, and you'll understand everything better." That's not poetic fluff. That's ancient wisdom pointing to a profound truth. When you step into nature, you step out of the prison of your own overthinking. You exit the echo chamber of your fears, your anxieties, your endless mental rehearsals of past regrets and future worries. In its place, you enter the rhythm of something far older, far greater, and far more stable than yourself. To the Stoics, nature wasn't just scenery. It was philosophy incarnate. The rustling of the leaves, the movement of clouds, the changing of seasons, all were lessons in acceptance, impermanence, and flow. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius each emphasized the importance of living in accordance with nature, secundum naturam. But this wasn't just about the environment. It was about aligning your inner world with the laws and rhythms of the outer world. The Stoics believed that peace comes not from dominating nature or shielding ourselves from it, but from participating in its order. Just as a tree bends with the wind and a river carves through rock over time, we too must learn to adapt, to yield, to flow. In nature, there is no resistance to what is. A storm comes and the forest does not protest. Winter arrives and the animals prepare. This is the lesson. Accept what is and move with it. In today's world, we live increasingly inside. Inside buildings, inside cars, inside screens. Most tragically, we live inside our minds, disconnected from the greater world that cradled our ancestors for millennia. And yet, modern science continues to confirm what the Stoics already knew: nature heals. Exposure to natural environments has been shown to reduce cortisol levels, a key marker of stress, lower blood pressure, improve mood, and even increase creativity and focus. The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is built entirely around this principle. Walking slowly through the woods, letting your senses absorb the smells, textures, and sounds of the forest. No goal, no destination, is presence. But it isn't only about physical health. Being in nature reorders your mind. It reminds you that your problems, however real, are not the center of the universe. It humbles you, and in that humility, you find perspective. The sky does not care about your deadlines. The ocean does not judge your mistakes. The mountain does not flinch at your worries. This, paradoxically, can be the most comforting realization of all. One of the most difficult lessons in life is learning to let go. Letting go of control, letting go of perfection, letting go of outcomes. Nature teaches us this by example. It is a masterclass in impermanence. Nothing in nature clings to what it once was. The flower blooms and then it fades. The tree loses its leaves in fall and waits patiently through the winter. The tide rises, then recedes. Stoicism teaches that this impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. By recognizing that all things change, we learn not to grasp so tightly. We begin to value the present moment for what it is, without trying to possess or preserve it beyond its time. Nature models this serenity in every branch, every stream, every shifting breeze. And what of humility? In nature, you are no longer the protagonist of your own drama. You are simply a part of the whole, a single thread in the vast tapestry of life. The Stoics believed this humility was essential to peace. When you understand your place in the universe, when you see yourself as part of something larger and enduring, your personal ego loses its grip. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to chase endlessly. You simply are, and that is enough. It's easy to get lost in the mind. Our thoughts swirl with expectations, fears, what-ifs, and should-haves. We become our own worst enemies, spinning stories that keep us trapped in suffering. But the Stoics offer a key. Step outside. Step outside not just your house, but your habitual thoughts. Step outside your inflated self-importance. Step outside the mental noise that tells you you're not enough or that you must control everything. Stand beneath the stars. Walk barefoot on the earth. Sit by a river and listen. Not to your thoughts, but to the water. In these moments, your mind will quiet, not because you force it to, but because it no longer needs to scream to be heard. It will quiet because it recognizes deeply that you are safe, that you are home, and that the world is vast enough to hold everything you carry. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by pressure, by fear, by grief, remember this ancient prescription. Get outside. Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually. Let nature, the original therapist, do what it's been doing for millions of years, restoring balance. Let the wind teach you how to let go. Let the trees show you how to stand tall and remain rooted. Let the changing sky remind you that nothing lasts forever, and that's okay. You are not separate from nature, you are nature. And every time you return to it, you remember a truth deeper than thought. You are not alone. You are not broken. Truth 3. Be a morning person. There's something sacred about the early morning, the way the light spills slowly across the floor, the silence before the world begins to speak, the feeling that you are awake while everything else still sleeps. It's not just poetic, it's power. And the Stoics knew it. Far from groggy starts and mindless morning routines, Stoic philosophers treated the dawn as a spiritual battleground, a critical moment to reclaim sovereignty over their day and over their soul. Epictetus, the once enslaved man who rose to become one of Stoicism's most respected teachers, was adamant about the importance of beginning each day with intention. He urged his students, begin at once to live and count each day as a separate life. For the Stoics, each morning was not merely the continuation of yesterday, it was a new beginning, a clean slate, and a chance to align oneself again with virtue, discipline, and purpose. In our modern world, it's easy to dismiss the early morning as just another part of the grind. Alarm goes off, we hit snooze, scroll the phone, rush to get dressed, check emails, slam coffee, panic through traffic. In this chaos, the day owns us before we even begin. But the Stoics would argue that how you begin your day is how you live your day. That first hour, before the noise, before the demands, before the distractions, is a rare window of clarity. It's your chance to step into the day as a sovereign, not a slave to urgency. It's your chance to remember who you are, what you stand for, and how you want to move through the hours ahead. Mornings, in the Stoic view, are a time to return to the self, not the egoic self obsessed with validation or success, but the essential self, the inner citadel of calm, reason, and purpose. By rising early and meeting the morning with discipline, the Stoic prepares for the day's inevitable challenges. They don't leave their mindset to chance. They shape it with care. So what did this actually look like? For Epictetus, mornings involved reflection, preparing the mind to meet whatever fate the day held. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, famously began many mornings reminding himself of the types of people he would encounter: selfish, angry, manipulative. But instead of resenting them, he prepared to meet them with patience, tolerance, and understanding. He reminded himself that their faults were part of nature too, and that his role was not to judge, but to remain virtuous in response. This kind of mental priming was essential to Stoic practice. Before stepping into the world, they stepped into themselves. They examined their duties, their fears, their priorities. They reminded themselves that they are mortal, that time is short, and that virtue, not fame, not wealth, not comfort, is the only true good. These moments weren't long, necessarily, but they were intentional. That was the key. The morning wasn't rushed or accidental. It was owned. There's a deep Stoic idea that each day is a life in miniature. Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." And Epictetus added, "Count each day as a separate life." This isn't just poetic. It's radical. If today were your whole life, how would you live it? The morning, then, becomes your moment of rebirth. The past is gone. The future isn't here. This moment, this hour, is where life begins again. And in that hour, you get to choose. Will you start with anxiety or awareness, distraction or direction, neglect or purpose? Many of us live reactively, letting the world dictate our mood and pace from the moment we open our eyes. But the Stoics rejected this passivity. They believed in preparation, not control, but readiness. And there's no better time to prepare than the early morning, when your mind is still unclouded and your spirit unburdened. There is a reason so many great thinkers, leaders, writers, and philosophers have cherished the morning hours. The world is quieter. The mind is clearer. You're not yet under siege by notifications, noise, and expectations. You can think, you can feel, you can connect. This peace is fertile soil for clarity, for gratitude, for discipline. In the early morning, you can read something that uplifts you. You can write down your goals or reflect on your values. You can meditate, stretch, pray, walk. Whatever brings you into alignment with your better self. Stoicism teaches that happiness isn't found in possessions or praise. It's found in right action, clarity of thought, and alignment with nature. And nothing aligns you faster than beginning the day slowly, intentionally, and with reverence. To be a morning person in the Stoic sense is not to love getting up early for its own sake. It's to understand that the early hours are a sacred opportunity. A space to reclaim your freedom and shape your spirit before the world has a chance to shake it. If you want to change your life, don't start with big declarations or dramatic gestures. Start with your mornings. Rise with the sun or before it. Step into the quiet and meet yourself there. Reflect, breathe, set your compass. This is your daily chance to begin again. The world will still throw challenges at you. The chaos will still come. But if you've met the morning with strength and serenity, you'll face the rest of the day not as a victim, but as a philosopher in action. Because happiness isn't found in the ease of the day. It's found in how you prepare for it. Truth 4. Pack your day with plans. In our modern world, being busy has become a badge of honor. We fill our calendars to the brim. We chase deadlines, multitask across multiple screens, and answer emails at red lights. Productivity gurus tell us to hustle harder, stack habits, and never waste a second. But in all this motion, we rarely pause to ask, what am I busy with? And why? The Stoics had a much more radical take. One that cuts through the noise of modern hustle culture. like a blade through fog. Seneca, the Roman statesman and stoic philosopher, warned, "Being busy is a form of laziness." At first glance, that sounds paradoxical. Isn't busyness the opposite of laziness? Not in the Stoic mind. Because being constantly busy, without purpose, without reflection, without alignment, is just another way to avoid the hard work of living intentionally. The Stoics didn't idolize productivity. They didn't measure worth by output. They measured a good life by virtue, clarity, and meaning. And they understood something that we desperately need to remember. Doing more is not the same as living well. In modern life, we often confuse activity with achievement. We keep ourselves in motion to avoid discomfort with silence, with self-reflection, with the deeper questions that arise when we stop. What am I really doing with my life? What actually matters to me? Where is this all going? Busyness becomes a way to run from these questions. We say yes to every request. We check our phones compulsively. We pile on projects and tell ourselves we're being productive, but deep down, we're often just avoiding stillness. And the Stoics knew that stillness was where the real work began. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." He wasn't condemning rest. He was condemning distraction. He saw people who rushed around the forum, attended countless meetings, accumulated wealth and honors, and yet lived empty lives, never once stopping to examine what they truly wanted or valued. We can fall into that same trap. We plan our days down to the minute, but what are we really planning? A series of distractions, or a day lived in accordance with our highest values? The Stoics did believe in structure. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca all advocated for routines, schedules, and discipline, but their goal wasn't to get more done. Their goal was to become better people, wiser, calmer, more virtuous. Every plan was a tool, not a performance. Every task was measured not by how hard it was, but by how aligned it was with truth and goodness. When Epictetus advised his students, he didn't ask how many things they completed. He asked whether their actions were consistent with their principles. Were they just performing for praise, or actually living by reason and virtue? To pack your day like a Stoic is to fill it not with noise, but with intention. It means choosing fewer tasks, but giving them fuller attention. It means asking what matters most, and putting that at the center of your schedule. Not just reacting to whatever comes your way. Let's be honest, many of us are overbooked and undernourished. Our calendars are full, but our souls are starving. We cross off 10 things on a to-do list, but forget to call our parents. We answer every email, but neglect the book that made us feel alive. We make time for the urgent and sacrifice the important. The Stoic remedy isn't to do nothing, it's to do what matters, and to do it with presence, clarity, and heart. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential," which brings a double satisfaction. To do less, better. This is the Stoic version of deep work. It's not about squeezing more into your hours. It's about extracting more meaning from your hours. When you plan your day, don't just ask, "What do I need to get done?" Ask, "What aligns with my core values?" What actions will nourish my soul, not just my status? What will I be proud of when the day ends? What will serve others, not just my ego? This mindset transforms planning from a grind into a sacred act. Your calendar becomes a canvas, not just a list of chores, but a portrait of the life you're trying to build. We live in a time that worships more success, more followers, more money, more tasks completed. But Stoicism teaches the power of less, but better. Less distraction, more focus. Less noise, more depth. Less rush, more presence. This takes courage. It means saying no to opportunities, to expectations, to the voice in your head that says you must do everything to be worthy. But each time you resist that pull toward endless productivity, you reclaim a piece of your peace. Busyness is often fear in disguise. The Stoic chooses intention over impulse. They don't measure themselves by how many plates they can spin, but by whether their time reflects their principles. Imagine this: you wake up tomorrow and design your day like a Stoic. Not a chaotic checklist, not a blur of appointments, but a quiet, powerful architecture of meaning. You include time for reflection, time for service, time for stillness, time for learning. You do what matters, and you do it well. You leave space to breathe, to think, to be kind, and at the end of that day, you don't feel burned out, you feel whole. This is the Stoic life. Not packed with productivity, packed with purpose. Truth 5. Don't quit on what you love. In a culture dominated by instant gratification, fast success, and polished social media highlights, it's easy to believe that if something is right for us, it should also be easy. That love should come without hardship, that passion should always feel good. But the Stoics, those ancient philosophers of grit and clarity, knew otherwise. They knew that the things which matter most, our purpose, our deepest work, the people we care about, do not come wrapped in ease. Instead, they come with trials. They come with pain. And they come with the unglamorous, often invisible demand to persist. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire while enduring personal loss, betrayal, and physical illness, still wrote with incredible humility and discipline. In his Meditations, he wrote one of Stoicism's most powerful lessons: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not motivational fluff. It's a radical mindset shift. It means that hardship isn't a detour from the path. It is the path. When something obstructs your progress, it doesn't disqualify your effort. It defines it. You don't run from it. You go through it. Because that's what transformation requires. Passion in the Stoic worldview was never about fleeting enthusiasm or good vibes. It wasn't about Instagrammable moments or applause. It was about devotion, a quiet, disciplined form of love for something that might never reward you in the way the world expects. It might not bring you money, recognition, or even success in the conventional sense, but it brings you something deeper. The kind of satisfaction that only comes from giving your all to something that calls to your soul. The kind of fulfillment that grows slowly, steadily, in the soil of sacrifice. Modern life, unfortunately, has conditioned us to treat hardship as a signal to quit. When something becomes difficult, uncomfortable, or slow, we think we've made a mistake. We jump ship. We look for something else, something new, something easier. But this mindset is deeply at odds with Stoic thought. The Stoics taught that the presence of difficulty is not a sign of failure, it is a test of sincerity. If you love something only when it's easy, do you really love it? Or do you just love how it makes you feel? Epictetus, born a slave and later one of the most respected philosophers in Rome, said it plainly: difficulty shows what men are. You only know who you are, what you believe in, and what you're willing to fight for when things stop going your way. When the path becomes uncertain, when the work becomes exhausting, when no one is watching and nothing is rewarding you, then you discover whether you're truly committed or merely curious, whether your passion is a flame or just a spark. Seneca warned against the illusion of busyness and shallow pursuits, urging us to use our short time on earth meaningfully. He said, "It is not that we are given a short life, but that we waste much of it." One of the greatest wastes is quitting on the very things that could shape us, quitting on the work that refines us, the people who teach us how to love, the goals that stretch us, and the callings that quietly whisper, "Don't stop now." When we turn our backs on what we love simply because it challenges us, we don't escape suffering. We trade meaningful struggle for meaningless comfort, and that's a far greater loss. Now, to be clear, Stoicism does not demand blind perseverance. It doesn't tell you to stay in toxic situations or grind yourself into the ground. It asks you to examine your motives with brutal honesty. Are you quitting because you've thoughtfully concluded that something no longer aligns with your values? Or are you quitting because it hurts? Because you're tired? because progress isn't happening fast enough. The Stoics invite us to become the kind of people who can hold effort and reflection at the same time, who can pause, recalibrate, and then recommit with clearer purpose. Because the truth is this: anything you love deeply will at some point break your heart. A dream you've worked on for years might fail. A person you've given everything to might walk away. A mission you've poured your soul into might go unrecognized. But that doesn't mean your love was wasted. On the contrary, it means it mattered. Love that doesn't hurt sometimes isn't love at all. It's convenience. And the Stoics wanted something more than convenience. They wanted truth. They wanted inner strength. They wanted freedom. And freedom, real freedom, often lies on the far side of perseverance. There is something deeply dignified, even heroic, in refusing to quit on what you love, especially when it's hard, especially when no one is cheering you on, especially when your efforts seem invisible. The Stoics understood that fulfillment isn't found in ease, it's forged through the fire of commitment. The person who keeps showing up, who keeps building, who keeps caring, not because it's easy, but because it's right, is the person who ends their life with no regret. You may not always see the fruit of your labor. The book you write might not become a bestseller. The business you start might not succeed. The relationship you fight for might still fall apart. But what you will have, what no one can ever take from you, is the integrity of knowing that you stayed true, that you endured, that you walked through the storm and didn't let it break you, that you loved something enough to suffer for it. And that is the essence of a meaningful life. So when the passion fades, when the work stalls, when the dream darkens, don't run, stand still, breathe deep. Remind yourself why you began. Remember that the obstacle is not in the way, it is the way, and the only way out is through. The Stoics weren't stoic because they were emotionless. They were stoic because they were courageous. They were patient. They were committed. They knew that what is easy to abandon is rarely worth having. Don't quit on what you love, not because it's always beautiful, but because you are becoming beautiful through your effort. Every challenge is shaping you. Every hardship is sculpting your character. And every moment you choose to stay is a moment that proves who you really are. So don't quit. Endure. Refine. Rise. And when the time comes, you'll realize that your joy didn't come from reaching the destination. It came from the quiet, powerful, unforgettable decision to keep going when it would have been easier to give up. Truth 6. Go for kindness. In a society where acts of kindness are often measured by likes, shares, and public recognition, Stoicism offers a quieter, more powerful truth. The most meaningful kindness is often the kind no one ever sees. Not because it's small or insignificant, but because it's genuine. The Stoics believed that kindness wasn't some lofty moral add-on. It was fundamental to the fabric of our shared humanity. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most compassionate voices, taught that we are not isolated individuals but interconnected beings. He wrote, "What harms the hive harms the bee." In other words, we cannot thrive while others suffer. When we help others, we are not diminishing ourselves, we are strengthening the whole. And in strengthening the whole, we inevitably strengthen ourselves. That's the shocking truth. Kindness is not some martyr's burden. It is not an act of loss. It is strategic goodness. It is enlightened self-interest. When you lift someone else, you rise with them. When you bring light to someone else's dark day, your own soul glows a little brighter. The Stoics didn't see kindness as weakness. They saw it as wisdom, knew that to live well is to live together, and kindness is the invisible glue that binds us all. Modern psychology and neuroscience now confirm what the Stoics intuited thousands of years ago. Acts of kindness release dopamine, reduce cortisol, and improve emotional resilience. But the Stoics didn't need brain scans to prove this. They simply observed life. They noticed that a person who gives freely, without the expectation of reward, is a person who feels free. There's something deeply liberating about doing the right thing just because it's right. Not for applause, not for validation, but for the simple reason that it strengthens your character and aligns you with nature. To be kind in a visible, socially approved way is easy, but to be kind when no one is looking, that is stoic virtue. It requires you to step beyond ego. It asks you to operate from principle, not performance. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, had every excuse to act above others. Yet in his private writings, never intended for publication, he reminds himself daily to be humble, patient, and gentle. Kindness is invincible, he wrote. Invincible. Not soft, not naive, but indestructible. Why? Because kindness disarms hostility. It diffuses anger. It reclaims humanity in a world quick to forget it. Kindness in the Stoic sense is not sentimentality. It is not about pleasing everyone. It is not passive or performative. It is active love, love translated into motion. Sometimes kindness means telling the truth when it's hard. Sometimes it means forgiving when you have every reason not to. Sometimes it means showing up when no one else will, giving when you have little, or simply listening when someone is hurting. These are not grand, dramatic acts, but they are powerful, and they create ripples that extend far beyond what the eye can see. The Stoics saw life as a cosmic web, each person a thread that when pulled affects the whole. To act kindly, then, is to maintain the integrity of that web. It is to honor the shared breath that unites us all. When you water someone else's garden, your own roots deepen. When you heal another's wound, you stitch up part of your own. And when you offer compassion in the face of cruelty, you do more than change the moment. You shift the moral direction of the world. But here's where the Stoic view becomes even more radical. They didn't just urge kindness in good times. They demanded it, especially when it was inconvenient, unseen, and unrewarded, because that's when it matters most. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your coworker snaps at you, when a friend disappoints you, your response is your responsibility and your power. Kindness is not weakness, it's restraint, it's control. It's the ability to meet ugliness with grace, not because they deserve it, but because you do. To the Stoic, virtue is the only true good. Fame, wealth, pleasure, these come and go, but character remains. And character is revealed most clearly in how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Can you still be generous when no one thanks you? Can you still be gentle when it earns you nothing? If so, then you are truly free. Then you are truly alive. We live in a world desperate for kindness. Not performative kindness, but principled kindness. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. The kind that expects nothing and still gives everything. So be the person who pays for someone's meal and tells no one. Be the person who forgives quietly, who listens deeply, who gives generously in silence. Let your kindness be a secret strength. Let it shape you in the unseen hours. Because the world may not always reward kindness, but it remembers it, it needs it, and so do you. So go for kindness, especially when it's unseen. Not because the world will clap, but because your soul will grow. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. And not because it makes you look good, but because it makes you good. That's the Stoic way, and it's the only kind of kindness that lasts. 7. Say yes more often. In a world obsessed with control, perfection, and planning, the Stoics taught something radically different. Acceptance is the path to strength. Not resignation, not passivity, but deep, courageous, unshakable acceptance. And in that acceptance lies a kind of yes, not to others' demands or shallow obligations, but to life itself. A bold, defiant, fully present yes to whatever the moment brings. This is the essence of one of Stoicism's most powerful and misunderstood principles, amor fati, the love of fate. The Stoics didn't just tolerate the ups and downs of life, they embraced them. They understood that the universe doesn't exist to serve our preferences. Life doesn't bend to our will, and our happiness cannot be rooted in how well the world cooperates with our plans. Instead, true peace comes from aligning ourselves with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Seneca captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote, Fate leads the willing, the unwilling it drags. This wasn't a fatalistic surrender. It was a philosophical awakening. To resist what is, death, loss, change, imperfection, is to sentence yourself to endless suffering. But to say yes, even to the hard, the unfair, the unknown, that is to stand with life, not against it. That is power. Saying yes in this context doesn't mean becoming a doormat or blindly agreeing to everything. The Stoics were not people pleasers. They weren't weak. They stood firm in their values, often at great personal cost. But they also didn't waste their energy raging against what they couldn't change. They didn't argue with the weather, curse the river, or fight the wind. Instead, they adjusted their sails. They flowed with the current. They chose to cooperate with the cosmos rather than pretend they were above it. Modern life teaches us to grasp, to hustle, to curate and control. But so much of life is ungraspable. Accidents happen, people change, plans fall apart. We get sick, we lose things we thought were permanent. The Stoic knows that trying to escape this reality is futile, but embracing it, embracing the chaos, the imperfection, the volatility, is liberation. It doesn't shrink you, it expands you. When you say yes to life, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start showing up as you are, for what is, rather than postponing your joy until everything aligns. You become agile, adaptable. You learn to dance in the storm rather than cursing the rain. You discover that even in hardship, beauty lives. Even in pain, growth waits. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher-emperor burdened with unimaginable pressure, wrote with surprising gentleness about this idea. In his meditations, he urges himself to meet every moment with equanimity. Welcome it, he says. The obstacle is the way. This is the yes of a warrior, not soft or submissive, but deeply rooted. He understood that our inner freedom depends on our ability to consent to reality, not to be crushed by it. And here's the paradox. The more you say yes to life, the less you say yes to people-pleasing. Because when you stop fighting reality, you no longer need validation from others. You stop living reactively. You become intentional. You can say no to the trivial, the toxic, the inauthentic, because your yes is already devoted to something higher. Truth, presence, peace. You stop being everyone's puppet and start becoming your own person. Not hardened, not cynical, but grounded and open. This Stoic yes is active. It says, I don't love the pain, but I accept it. I don't wish for misfortune, but I will make meaning from it. I didn't choose this loss, but I will honor it. I didn't plan this detour, but I will find wisdom in it. It is not a passive shrug. It's a sacred contract with life, to meet it fully, honestly, and without flinching. And this yes doesn't just change how you face the big storms. It transforms your daily life. It teaches you to say yes to small joys, to the sunlight through your window, the laugh of a stranger, the quiet moment with yourself. It reminds you that each day is a gift, not a guarantee. That the ordinary is not ordinary. That this moment is enough, even as you strive for more. So say yes, not to please others, but to meet reality with open eyes and a willing heart. Say yes to the unexpected, to the undone, to the imperfect. Say yes when you feel broken. Say yes when you're afraid. Say yes not because life is always good, but because you are strong enough to meet whatever it brings. The Stoics knew that the secret to happiness was not in changing the world, but in changing our response to it. And that response begins with one word: yes. Truth 8. Turn off your phone sometimes. Imagine this, you're alone in a quiet room. No buzz, no pings, no scrolling feeds. Just silence. To many today, that sounds like boredom, or worse, anxiety. But to the Stoics, that silence would have been sacred. A sanctuary. A space not to be avoided, but entered. In an age of constant digital noise, the wisdom of the ancients rings louder than ever. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul." That line could have been written today, posted under a photo of someone tossing their phone in a drawer for the weekend. Though the Stoics never battled notification fatigue or dopamine loops from endless scrolling, they deeply feared something even more corrosive: distraction. The kind that fractures your mind, pulls you from the present, and hijacks your attention until life becomes a blur. Distraction isn't a new disease, it's a timeless enemy of happiness. And the Stoics understood that the only life worth living is one that is fully inhabited. That means being here, now. Not floating in digital limbo, not compulsively checking the weather, the stock market, or whether someone has replied, but being rooted, focused, free. Today's smartphone is both a tool and a trap. It's a portal to the world, but also a prison for the mind. It promises connection while breeding disconnection. It offers entertainment while eroding attention. And worst of all, it convinces us that being constantly on is the same as being alive. The Stoics would shake their heads, because real living, they knew, requires silence, space. It demands that we turn inward, not outward, for peace. Epictetus warned his students that they must be vigilant not just about their actions, but their thoughts. He taught that the soul must be trained, guarded, and cleaned, like a sacred temple. What would he say today? Watching someone scroll past 300 TikToks before breakfast, he'd probably remind us that our minds are our most precious resource, and every swipe, every click, every dopamine hit trains the brain to flee discomfort, to seek distraction, to avoid the hard but healing work of simply being present. When you turn off your phone, you're not just unplugging from the internet, you're plugging back into yourself. You give your mind room to breathe. You open the door to stillness, reflection, gratitude. You start to notice the things that matter. The way sunlight hits the wall, the sound of birds at dawn, the contours of your own thoughts. You remember that life is not meant to be consumed in a flurry of images and updates, but savored, moment by moment, breath by breath. And in that silence, something beautiful happens. Anxiety fades, because anxiety thrives on chaos, on overstimulation, on comparison and information overload. But in the stillness, when all the external noise is gone, you realize that most of your fears are echoes, not facts. You remember that you've survived every hard day so far. You realize that your worth is not tied to productivity or popularity, but to presence, integrity, and peace. Seneca, too, valued intentional solitude. He believed that stepping away from the crowd was essential to reclaiming clarity. He didn't call it digital detox. He called it philosophy. Time alone with one's thoughts wasn't just a luxury, it was a necessity for self-acknowledge. And without self-acknowledge, happiness is impossible. When you make space for silence, you start to hear things you forgot were there. Your own voice, your own longings, your own sense of direction. You realize that you don't have to keep up with the noise. You don't have to answer every message instantly. You don't have to know everything that's happening right now. What you need is to be here, to choose this moment, to say, I am enough, this is enough, and I don't need more than this right now. The Stoics would urge us to reclaim our attention the way a warrior reclaims a stolen sword, because your attention is your life. What you give it to shapes who you become. If you give it to chaos, you become chaotic. If you give it to fear, you become afraid. But if you give it to stillness, to reflection, to gratitude, then you become free. So yes, turn off your phone sometimes. Let the notifications wait. Let the world spin without your constant input. Choose a quiet hour over an endless scroll. Not because you're escaping the world, but because you're returning to it. Fully, wisely, gratefully. Turn off your phone and turn back on your soul. Because in the silence, joy doesn't just visit. It takes root. And from that root, your best life can finally grow. Truth 9. Turn it off. In a world that tells us we need to control every aspect of our lives to succeed and be happy, Stoicism provides a counterintuitive path: surrender. Not in the sense of giving up or becoming passive, but rather in the sense of acknowledging that there are forces outside our control, and that peace is found when we let go of the need to dominate them. The more we try to hold on to control, the more we suffocate ourselves with anxiety and frustration. This is one of the core teachings of Stoicism, that happiness isn't about managing every detail, but about mastering your response to the uncontrollable. Epictetus, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, knew firsthand the pain of loss and the struggle of life's challenges. Once a slave, he rose to prominence through his wisdom, teaching that true freedom begins when we distinguish between what we control and what we don't. As he famously said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. This fundamental insight is life-changing when we let it settle into our bones, because once you grasp it, you realize that so much of the stress and dissatisfaction in life comes from trying to control what is simply beyond your reach. Take a moment to reflect on your daily life. How much of it revolves around controlling things you can't actually control? The way others perceive you, the decisions made by your boss, the traffic that delays your commute, the state of the economy, the weather, your relationship with someone else, or even your own physical health in some cases. The list goes on. We live in a culture that encourages us to optimize every aspect of our existence, often leading us to think that if we just try harder, plan better, or manipulate our circumstances enough, we can achieve perfect outcomes. But Stoicism points out the truth that obsessing over these things only breeds misery. The more we strive to control the uncontrollable, the more we give our power away, the more we feel helpless, out of sync with reality, and disconnected from peace. And yet, it's so easy to fall into this trap. We live in a world where things seem to happen to us, and the pressure to react, adjust, and fix things is overwhelming. We believe that if we can manage everything, we'll find happiness. But the reality is that when we attempt to control the uncontrollable, we're left exhausted, burned out, and at war with the world. We cannot control everything, and trying to do so is not only futile, it's emotionally and spiritually draining. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who led the Roman Empire during some of its most turbulent years, understood this principle deeply. His meditations are a treasure trove of wisdom on accepting what we cannot change while focusing on what we can. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine being a ruler in the midst of war, plague, and political intrigue, yet finding peace in the recognition that his power lay in his response, not in controlling the chaos around him. This ability to surrender to the uncontrollable, to acknowledge that not everything was his to manage, brought him an unshakable sense of inner peace. His strength didn't come from forcing life to bend to his will. It came from accepting the flow of life and finding clarity within it. This principle isn't just about accepting external chaos, it's about realizing that we cannot control our emotions, our desires, or even the future. We can only control how we respond to them. Imagine how freeing that is. When you let go of the need to control everything, you stop carrying the heavy weight of perfectionism. You stop obsessing over outcomes that may never materialize. Instead, you can focus on your actions, your mindset, and your character. Those are the things you truly have control over. By focusing on what is within your realm of influence, you cultivate peace and resilience, knowing that no matter what happens, you are aligned with your values and actions. Surrendering the need for control does not mean becoming passive or complacent. In fact, it requires a great deal of courage and clarity. Letting go of control means embracing life as it comes, with all its imperfections, uncertainties, and challenges. It means acknowledging that there is a natural flow to life, and we must be flexible enough to move with it, rather than rigidly trying to bend it to our will. This doesn't mean we stop trying or stop caring. It means we act with intention and detachment. We do our best, and then we release the outcome. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." The Stoics understood that the key to peace wasn't in controlling external events, but in mastering our internal reactions. If you spend your life trying to control everything, you'll find yourself constantly fighting against the world, against people, against time. And that fight is exhausting. But when you relinquish that fight, you open yourself up to a life of freedom. Freedom to enjoy the present, freedom to pursue what matters most, and freedom to live without the weight of perfectionism. You might wonder, what happens when we let go of control? Does everything just fall apart? Ironically, the opposite happens. Life becomes more manageable. You start to experience moments of deep peace because you're no longer trying to micromanage everything around you. You become more present, more grounded, and more resilient. Challenges don't overwhelm you. They become opportunities for growth. Loss doesn't break you. It teaches you something vital. Disappointment doesn't crush you. It strengthens your resolve. In releasing the need for control, you step into a more empowered version of yourself, one that is deeply connected to what matters and less tethered to fleeting outcomes. Letting go of control also makes us better equipped to handle what life throws at us. When we don't expect perfection, when we don't believe that everything should go our way, we approach life with more humility and grace. We learn to ride the waves instead of fighting them. This brings freedom, not just from stress and anxiety, but also from the relentless pressure to meet impossible standards. To turn off your need for control is to reclaim your life. It's to stop chasing after something that is constantly slipping through your fingers. It's to find peace not in the outcomes, but in the actions that align with your highest values. It's to say, I will act with integrity, and I will accept whatever comes with calm. This is not weakness, it's strength. It is the strength of knowing that we don't have to control everything to be happy. We only need to control ourselves. So turn it off, let go. Let go of the fear, the anxiety, and the burden of trying to control everything. Embrace the unknown and find your power in surrender. Because true strength isn't in controlling life, it's in accepting it as it is and responding to it with wisdom, courage, and peace. Truth 10. Respect everyone. In a world where conflicts are inevitable and not everyone you encounter will treat you with kindness or understanding, Stoicism offers a profound challenge. Respect everyone, even those who test you. It's easy to show respect to people who are kind, generous, or thoughtful. But what about those who challenge your patience, who irritate you, or who seem determined to push your buttons? The Stoics understood that respect isn't about the behavior of others. It's about the state of your own character. True respect is a reflection of your internal world, not the external one. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic emperors, often found himself surrounded by people who tested his ability to remain calm and composed. He was a leader of an empire that faced constant wars, political betrayal, and civil unrest. Yet, despite these challenges, he wrote in his meditations, "When you wake up, tell yourself, the people I meet today will be meddling, ungrateful, but I cannot harm them without harming myself." In other words, even when people's actions are frustrating or disrespectful, we must remember that how we respond defines who we are, not how they behave. When you lose your temper, show disdain, or react with disrespect, you are lowering yourself to the level of those who provoke you. You allow their behavior to control your peace and undermine your integrity. At its core, this teaching challenges the common notion that respect must be earned. The Stoics taught that respect is not a transaction based on whether someone deserves it or not. Respect is an intrinsic value that you choose to uphold, regardless of others' actions. When you react with respect, you do so because it reflects your character, not because the other person has earned it. This is one of the most profound aspects of Stoic philosophy. We are the only ones who can control how we react to others. While we cannot control how people treat us, we can choose to show respect in every interaction, even with those who seem unworthy of it. This doesn't mean that you should accept abuse, mistreatment, or harmful behavior without standing up for yourself. The Stoics were not advocates of passivity or being doormats. What they meant was that even when confronting someone who tests your patience or behaves disrespectfully, your response should always be rooted in dignity. It is possible to stand firm and set boundaries without resorting to retaliation or disrespect. In fact, Marcus Aurelius himself often dealt with complex and difficult situations with an inner calm, knowing that his ability to maintain respect and composure was the key to his own peace. The act of showing respect, especially to those who challenge you, is not just a moral decision, it's a pragmatic one. When you engage in respect, even in difficult situations, you maintain your peace of mind. When you retaliate or lose your composure, you disrupt your own harmony. Disrespect is self-sabotage because it feeds anger, resentment, and negativity within yourself. The Stoics taught that every time we respond with disrespect, we diminish our own character, we lose our dignity. But every time we respond with patience, understanding, and respect, we elevate ourselves. Consider how much power we give away when we allow ourselves to react with anger or contempt. When someone is rude to you, and you let their words or actions control your response, you are giving them the power to affect your mood, your peace, and your happiness. In the heat of a moment, it might feel justified to strike back, to argue, or to hold a grudge. But the truth is, that reaction does not harm the other person nearly as much as it. You allow them to control your emotions, to take away your peace. In Stoic philosophy, this is the essence of losing control. You allow the external world to disturb your inner state, which is the very thing that you should be protecting. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of the importance of empathy and understanding. In one of his most famous quotes, he wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." In other words, what harms one part of humanity harms all of humanity. The Stoics saw everyone as interconnected, and when we treat others with disrespect, we are ultimately harming ourselves. Respecting others is a reflection of our understanding of this interconnection. By treating others with dignity, even when they act in ways we disagree with, we affirm our shared humanity and maintain our own integrity. The concept of respect then becomes a powerful tool for personal growth and emotional resilience. When you maintain respect in the face of adversity, you are not only protecting your peace, but also building your own strength. It's easy to show respect when things are calm and everyone is treating you well. But it takes real fortitude to maintain respect when others test your limits. It's in those moments, when someone pushes your buttons or acts in a way that challenges your patience, that your true character shines. In those moments, you have the opportunity to prove to yourself that your peace is more important than winning an argument or getting the last word. By embracing the Stoic teaching of respect, you choose to rise above the petty behaviors of others. You choose to act according to your principles, not your impulses. You choose to maintain your dignity, no matter what others do. And in doing so, you not only preserve your own sense of self-worth, but you also become a source of calm and stability in a world that often feels chaotic. You are not controlled by the actions of others, and in turn, you empower yourself to act with wisdom and grace. In the end, respect isn't just about how we treat others, it's about how we treat ourselves. By respecting others, even those who test us, we honor our own character. We recognize that our peace is more important than any external provocation. And in doing so, we create a ripple effect of kindness and dignity that can transform our lives and the lives of those around us. Respect is the foundation of all meaningful human relationships, and it is the gateway to a life of inner peace and fulfillment. So the next time you encounter someone who challenges your patience or acts in a way you don't understand, remember the Stoic wisdom. Respect is not earned. It is a reflection of who you choose to be. Respond with dignity, with empathy, and with understanding. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. In conclusion, the Stoics knew happiness isn't a prize to win. It's a practice to nurture. This insight is revolutionary because it upends the modern notion that happiness is something we can obtain by acquiring more, doing more, or avoiding pain. In reality, the Stoics taught that joy is not a distant goal, but a state of being that arises from within. It is cultivated not through external circumstances or fleeting pleasures, but through the consistent practice of resilience, purpose, and virtue. These truths are shocking because they challenge us to look beyond superficial fixes and shortcuts that promise instant gratification, yet never truly deliver lasting contentment. Real happiness, according to the Stoics, isn't about the absence of pain, but the ability to endure and grow through it. It is not about waiting for life to be perfect before we can experience joy. It is about finding joy in the imperfections, in the struggles, and in the simple moments of daily life. As Seneca so wisely put it, true happiness is to enjoy the present without dependence on the future. Happiness, then, is not something we can chase or cling to. It is something we can live in every moment by embracing the present and living in alignment with our deepest values. The Stoic path to happiness is about discipline, yes, but not in the sense of punishing ourselves. It's a disciplined approach to living intentionally and authentically. It's about recognizing that our happiness is not dependent on external circumstances, but on how we choose to engage with the world. It's about understanding that, while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we respond. By practicing virtues like kindness, patience, humility, and self-awareness, we train ourselves to find peace and joy in the most challenging of situations. The Stoics remind us that happiness doesn't come in the form of a grand achievement or a singular moment of triumph. It's not something we can earn or collect. It's something that is available to us right now, in the choices we make, in the way we live our lives each day. It's in the quiet resilience we develop when life tests us, the purpose we find when we align our actions with our values, and the love and kindness we extend to others, especially when it's hardest to do so. So stop chasing happiness as if it's something that can be caught. Instead, start living it. Each day presents an opportunity to practice happiness through each intentional breath, through every act of kindness, through every morning sunrise. Happiness is not the destination, it's the journey. It's about how we live, how we choose to show up for ourselves and others, and how we align our lives with the virtues that bring us true peace. By embracing the Stoic teachings, we learn to find joy in the present moment and build a life that is rich in meaning, resilience, and fulfillment. If you've found value in these Stoic insights, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. By doing so, you're helping to spread these timeless teachings and creating a community focused on living with purpose and joy. Let's continue this journey together, one intentional step at a time.